Being able to serve Queen and country is something that we're all rightly proud of, and it never leaves us. Once served, always serving.
Being a part of this family and the platform that comes with that is an incredible responsibility that I take really seriously.
Harry and Meghan's decision to leave royal life behind rang out like a siren around the world. It was far and away from the stiff upper lip announcements of the past. This was a royal family feud that had gone completely out of control.
Ever since he set eyes on Meghan and fell in love with Meghan, he feared the day when he might lose her, and he believes that the media may play a part in his losing her.
I think I can very safely say, as naive as it sounds now, having gone through this, I did not have any understanding of just what it would be like.
Now, for the first time, we're taking a look behind the headlines at a version of events few of us got the chance to hear. This is the other side of the Sussex story, from alleged sources close to the couple and recently disclosed accounts.
The only sensible way of proceeding was to have arranged this beforehand with other members of the royal family, with the royal household. They've chosen to do the opposite and go rogue. The result, therefore, could have very serious consequences.
There has been a fundamental disconnect on the part of Meghan and Harry in the difference between being a celebrity and being a royal. As a celebrity, you don't owe the public anything. As a royal, the expectation is that you do.
Was there ever a chance this mold-breaking couple would just fit in? Or was freedom the goal from the start? This is Harry and Meghan, the price of freedom. On January 13, 2020, royal watchers were on the edge of their seats as Harry and Meghan entered what was infamously called a crisis meeting with Her Majesty the Queen, Prince Charles, and Prince William. This was the deal or no deal moment. The future of the royal family was hanging on the outcome of this critical talk.
This has opened up a Pandora's box, and there are so many wider issues at stake. The future of the monarchy, this streamlined monarchy that you keep hearing people talking about. What does that actually look like if Meghan and Harry do step down?
They feel they've been hounded by the media, etc. But in reality, there's been nothing like that. The royal rota system, I think, has given them an awful lot of works it's been going since the 1950s. And one must remember that this is an unelected institution that relies upon media, publicity, the public support for its life's blood.
This new relationship they want is very much what, say, a celebrity like Beyonce has, whereby they are in control, they release the images, they choose who comes and talks to them. I mean, that's a relationship that works in Hollywood, that's a relationship that works with celebrities. It's a great open question whether it's a relationship that can work with a senior, active member of the British royal family.
After several tense hours, Buckingham Palace announced with a heavy heart that arrangements had been reached for Harry and Meghan to leave royal duties behind and pursue an independent future. Public reaction was divided, to say the least. While some wished the couple nothing but happiness and success, others felt resentment in abandoning crown and country.
They are people who want to do good things in the world, and that's their vehicle for doing them.
The only president was Edward VIII, who abdicated in 1936 in order to marry Wallis Simpson. Harry, of course, is sixth in line to the throne, and this is not an exact parallel at all. But there is no doubt that this will have seismic effects.
There's no doubt that the reaction inside the palace was just as divided.
Well, Harry and Meghan's decision to step down from their royal duties was a huge shock. It was also a shock to the Queen and Prince Philip. Although they knew about it beforehand, they had no idea that it was all going to happen so quickly. They thought this would pan out and be carefully organised. Instead, it was just a snap decision, and then Harry and Meghan put a sort of blueprint on their website. So the royal family were very shocked and actually very angry. But they wanted to help. The Queen in particular wanted to help Harry and Meghan. She understood how difficult it was for outsiders to marry into the family, and she said, you know, I'm leaving the door open for you.
The now free couple announced a new future of financial independence, stepping back from the royal family, but insisted they would continue to support their causes and, of course, Her Majesty the Queen. They shared plans to split their time between North America and the UK. And just like that, as quickly as the whirlwind romance had started back in July 2016, less than 3 years on, they were gone.
What was it like? It was exciting. I mean, I've been seeing her for a period of time when I literally didn't tell anybody at all. And then William was longing to meet her, and so was Catherine. So, you know, they're being our neighbours, we managed to get that in quite a few times now. And Catherine's been absolutely
wonderful,
amazing, as is William as well. Fantastic support. And then my father as well. We had a couple of, no, more than that.
We've had
a handful of teas and meetings and all sorts of gatherings over at his place as well. So no, the family together have been absolutely solid support, and my grandparents as well have been wonderful throughout this whole process, and they've known for quite some time. So how they haven't told anybody is again a miracle in itself. But no, the whole family have come together and have been a huge amount of support.
They've been amazing.
Despite being born into royal privilege, Prince Harry's life hasn't been easy. He has endured tragedy, heartbreak, and loss. Fitting into the archaic institution of monarchy has been a struggle his entire life.
I think it's probably very difficult being the second son, because you don't really have a defined role. You're just the joker in the pack. The attention is very much focused on the eldest child, as it was with William. I mean, Diana made a very conscious effort not to allow that to happen, but of course it did. Harry became important by, being this big character, being this brave boy. So I think it does affect these kids. I mean, when you look at Princess Margaret, she never found the happiness she should have done. She was always completely in the shadow of her elder sister, because her elder sister was Queen.
Prince Harry, I won't say dropped out of school, but he came very close to dropping out of Eton. He left with some rather appalling exam results, and there was a delay before he joined the army, which was really his only option. University wasn't on the table. In that period, I think Harry now, by his own admission, would say that he went through a very bad patch.
And then, of course, there's the notorious strip at Vegas, which was really, really wild.
Harry learnt a lot in that small period of time, and I don't think at that stage in his life anybody could have said anything to him that he would have taken notice of. But luckily, he's grown up since then.
Every misdemeanor that Harry's had has sort of leaked out to the press, because we all want to see Harry being Harry.
I think when it comes to Prince Harry, it's obvious that there's huge affection between the two brothers. Even when he was very little, when he was 10, 11 years old, and he'd see the girls starting to scream because Prince William was coming along because he was that bit older and they could see he was very handsome. We're told Prince Harry would encourage the girls to scream and just because he knew it really embarrassed his brother. So he seems to be the more playful one, Prince Harry. And again, that would bear out what the Princess of Wales said in that Panorama interview about he's a more of a Spencer wild child than William is. And we can see it, can't we, in the pictures we see in his antics and the kind of things he likes to do. But I also get the impression from the times we've seen the two together talking to one another and about one another and about that, because they've spoken about their closeness as brothers, that you get the feeling that Prince William, for all his understanding of the seriousness of his role in the future, he makes it very clear that he needs his brother and he values that perhaps childlike, fun element that's in his life.
Finally got hands-on to a job that I absolutely adore. It is still hard work, but I'm better than William, so it's fine.
Yeah, just like
You've been helping him with the exams?
Yeah, an awful lot. He needs a lot of help. It's it's the RAF way, so you have to help the army out quite a lot.
I mean, does it come down to sort of mental maths tests, or?
Yeah, a bit of that. You know, a few trick questions, try and catch him out.
7 8s.
Yeah, exactly. Lots of that.
In 2013, Prince Harry spent 4 months in Afghanistan with the British Army. He often refers to his time there as some of the most humbling days of his life. And while serving, he preferred to be known as Captain Wales, as opposed to his formal royal title of Prince Harry. He regarded those days as the only time he could really be himself, far away from the scrutiny and rigidity of life at home. Harry's time in the military consequently inspired much of his charitable work when he returned to royal duties. This includes the internationally successful Invictus Games. In his younger years, when Harry was starting to date, he lost many potential lifelong partners abruptly, all for the same reason. The cameras and hounding press were just too much of an intrusion. There is no doubt that Harry has always struggled with his relationship to the press. It is clear that he still holds resentment towards the paparazzi that chased his mother, Princess Diana, that fateful night in Paris when she was killed in a car crash.
Prince Harry's relationship with the media went bad and has got progressively worse ever since his mother died. He believes deeply and profoundly that the media contributed to his mother's untimely death.
It's almost impossible to describe to a stranger or someone who's never met Princess Diana what she was really like. What I usually say is she was as beautiful inside as she was out. She loved to have fun. She loved to giggle. She loved to play practical jokes. And she loved nothing more than cuddling up with her 2 boys watching TV. And the boys were the center of her world. William, although he looks like his mother, is more like his father. He's studious, he's very careful, he's very respectful, he's duty-bound. Harry, on the other hand, is a hybrid of the Spencers' red hair and the Windsors, but he has his mother's naughty streak. Harry is the fun guy. Harry was always the soldier, William was always the general.
To anyone in the know, it was very obvious that the Wales' marriage was in real trouble by the late 80s. Inevitably, the announcement was made by the then Prime Minister, John Major, that Diana and Charles were going to separate. Now, Diana knew that this was going to ricochet, and she made sure that the first people who found out that they were going to separate were William and Harry, and she actually made the drive to Ludgrove School herself to go and tell them. Harry took it very badly, of course, being younger than William. He was incredibly upset. William was very stoic and said to his mother, well, if you're going to be happier, Mummy, then this is the right thing to do. Because, of course, Diana didn't have many confidants. I think with the palace came a lockdown. Yes, there were some courtiers, but you couldn't really confide in courtiers. There were some close friends, but the person she really often confided in was William. And as a young boy, trying to cope with that was a huge weight on his shoulders, but it was William who would push tissues under the door to Diana while she was having a good sob in the bathroom.
Diana, Princess of Wales, has been seriously injured in a car accident in Paris. Her companion, the Harrods heir Dodi Al Fayed, has been killed. The driver of the princess's car is also understood to be dead. The accident happened at just after midnight in the west of the city, near the Alma Bridge.
First, I want to pay tribute to Diana myself. She was an exceptional and gifted human being. In good times and bad, she never lost her capacity to smile and laugh, nor to inspire others with her warmth and kindness. I admired and respected her for her energy and commitment to others, and especially for her devotion to her 2 boys.
The boys were told early in the morning, before they would have had a chance to have turned the news on.
You know, I remember the day William and Harry came back to Kensington Palace after their mother died. I remember standing in the hallway and William walked in and shook my hand and asked me if I was all right. I said, I'm fine, thank you. Harry ran down the corridor, flung his arms around me and broke his heart. I still remember his tears wet my shirt through. He was broken-hearted.
William and Harry are acutely aware of where things went wrong in the press in their early life. And there's an argument, quite a strong one, to suggest that the wheels so spectacularly fell off Diana's life and her public image and how she was portrayed in the press and how she was pursued by journalists and photographers that contributed to her tragic demise.
Ever since her death, he has tried to find an accommodation, and that accommodation has been his acceptance that the intense interest in him could be used by him to throw focus on issues that he is passionate about.
In more recent years, Harry has chastised the press for their treatment of Meghan Markle, releasing unprecedented statements highlighting racist and unethical behavior.
We were introduced actually by a mutual friend. It was through her, and then we met once and then twice back to back, 2 dates in London last July.
Yes.
Beginning of July.
Harry saw Meghan's photograph on Violet von Westenholt's Instagram account because Violet does PR for Ralph Lauren, and Meghan was in this country, in England, doing some PR for Suits, and she was wearing Ralph Lauren. He saw the photograph and thought, wow, she's hot. And Violet said, well, you know, would you like to meet her? She's over here.
So they met through a mutual friend who set them up really on a blind date, and they had their first date at Soho House in London in 2016.
They got on so well that after just 3 hours, they decided to return for a romantic dinner the next evening. Meghan ticked all Harry's boxes, and it goes without saying that he was head over heels for her after just those first 2 dates.
And then, of course, you know, with Meghan living and working at the time in Toronto in Canada, where she was filming Suits, and Harry being based in London, they realised they would have to really go out their way to make time for each other very quickly. So within a few weeks of that first date, they were on holiday together in Botswana.
They were camping under the stars. I don't think it's camping in a way that you and I know it. It's probably a bit more luxurious than that.
Prince Harry had dated a string, really, of beautiful English socialites. They tended to be blonde and willowy, very great backgrounds, you know, wealthy families, went to the right schools. However, what Meghan brought to the equation was a lot of humanitarian work that Harry's ex-girlfriends just couldn't even touch with a 10-foot pole. Meghan had actually worked for the UN. She'd gone on missions and trips to support women and children in the developing world. Meghan had been a global humanitarian long before she met Prince Harry. And I think as Harry was very close to stepping into his full role as a member of the royal family, the possibility of meeting someone who was equally passionate and engaged about changing the world and helping other people was extremely attractive to Harry. I think if you watch the engagement interview that Harry and Meghan did on BBC, and they talk about their first meeting and how they instantly connected, it's apparent that, yes, there was a mutual attraction, but it went far beyond the physical. Meghan and Harry were attracted to what each other believed in and what each other wanted to do in the world.
I think Meghan had quite a difficult initial period after their relationship was confirmed, and we know this because Harry issued a statement defending her and sort of warning people off. You know, she described it as disheartening and discriminatory, but Harry himself mentioned sort of racial undertones, which is pretty upsetting for anyone concerned. And I think, you know, it is a difficult situation when you're thrust into the glare of media interest. The royal family garner a huge amount of attention, and you know, we know that they're not necessarily delighted by it, but you know, they work closely with the media to get their messages across. But I think nothing prepared Harry and Meghan for the wave of interest that followed the announcement of their relationship. And in fact, it was Harry's statement that confirmed they were a couple for the first time. I think it's a really difficult one because they are going to have to get used to the scrutiny, but it's only right that she's treated fairly, and I think it was upsetting for everyone to see that she'd been, you know, caused problems by this coverage.
There's a misconception that because I have worked in the entertainment industry that this would be something I would be familiar with, but even though I'd been on my show for, I guess, 6 years at that point, and working before that, I've never been part of tabloid culture. I've never been in pop culture to that degree, and lived a relatively quiet life, even though I focused so much on my job. And so that was a really stark difference out of the gate. But, and I think we were just hit so hard at the beginning with a lot of mistruths that I made the choice to not read anything, positive or negative. It just didn't make sense, and instead we focused all of our energies just on nurturing our relationship.
On us, yeah.
On us.
After those first 2 dates, Harry whisked Meghan away to his favorite place in the world, Botswana. He told Meghan to fly to the UK and leave the rest to him. Things seemed too good to be true, and back at the palace, whispers were starting to spread about concerns that the couple were moving too quickly. According to a source close to the couple, Prince Harry was cautioned early on to take his time with this girl from his brother. Prince Harry didn't take lightly to his words of warning. He took the advice to be the embodiment of the snobbery that the royal institution oozed to him. From this point on, the famously close brothers began to drift further and further apart. What had been the Fab Three was now a bitter Fab Four. According to sources, William's wife Kate did not perpetuate the divide, but did little to resolve it.
There is no doubt that when anybody marries into the royal family, the media immediately start looking into the background and the family of that person. I mean, with Meghan, it was quite easy because she'd been very public on social media and on the internet. She'd spoken about her biracial background, the fact that her ancestors were slaves. She'd spoken extensively about her charity work as well. So we had a really quite graphic picture of the type of woman she was, a feminist, somebody who believed in speaking out about her mixed race background. And I think that all of this actually was positive, in my opinion, because it gave the media a platform on which they could base their stories.
Meghan Markle is a California girl. In fact, her dad, Thomas, was in the film industry. He worked on set. And one of Meghan's earliest memories, actually, and what she says inspired her to be an actress, was being on set of the show Married with Children, a show that her dad worked on for years as a lighting director, I believe. Meghan grew up very much, not so much in the industry, but close, kind of on the periphery of show business. I think she got a real taste of it from a very early age. And Meghan was always a natural performer. We've seen videos of her in school plays. We know that she was always kind of gravitating towards the stage and being on stage. Meghan seemed to do really well with the kind of attention and scrutiny that came with being an actress. And there's no doubt that really, from an early age, Meghan always kind of stood out from the rest of her peers.
From the initial announcement of their relationship to the engagement and all the way to the wedding, Harry and Meghan were the hottest headline in every newspaper. All that attention began to cause more and more problems.
Ever since he set eyes on Meghan and fell in love with Meghan, he feared the day when he might lose her, and he believes that the media may play a part in his losing her.
Meghan and Harry had very much a whirlwind romance. When you are a royal trying to date someone who's a Hollywood actress, which is not unprecedented, but it is unusual, it's very important to stay under the radar. One of the big dangers of this relationship is that there would be a host of publicity, a host of press, and then the two would break up. And then both of them are plagued and haunted by the rest of their lives by questions about this relationship, which was never meant to be. So for celebrities, it's very important before they go public to make sure that it's really serious and it's gonna last, because otherwise it's just embarrassing and it's just bad publicity for everyone. In the case of Harry and Meghan, I think they knew very early on that this was potentially going to be a lifelong romance. But they were very cautious, and they tried to keep their relationship under the radar as they got to know each other to make sure before they went public. Harry made several surreptitious visits to Meghan's condo in Toronto. He would come and go, and really nobody figured out who he was. And Meghan was being, secretly brought over here, stayed with him in Kensington Palace, and again, none were the wiser. Meghan and Harry kept most of their early courting days behind closed doors. They say that, she was cooking him a roast chicken when he proposed. They were used to spending a lot of evenings at home, having home-cooked meals, because they frankly couldn't go out to restaurants. But I think the intimacy of their early days, when they were really forced to spend most of their time alone together at home, contributed to their close connection and bond.
The pressure on Meghan and her family were like nothing she had ever experienced. Insignificant family disagreements became international feuds. Difficulty with handling her father's exploitation by the media led to him being cut from the wedding plans, and the stress led him to suffer a life-threatening heart attack.
Windsor was, an incredible scene the day of the royal wedding. Everyone was excited. The crowds were enormous. As you came up that very famous park, it was mobbed. Both sides of where their carriage was going to go was thousands and thousands of people stood back to back, ready to cheer them on. The applause, the cheers as they drove through Windsor were deafening. There was a tremendous amount of love and support for Meghan and Harry on their special day. As is custom, the Queen's wedding gift to Meghan and Harry were titles. She gave them the titles of the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
I think everybody was stunned when Meghan got out of the Queen's Phantom Rolls Royce. She was in this virginal white dress with a beautiful train, and on the train were embroidered the emblems of the Commonwealth. And she had, obviously her borrowed thing was the tiara, which was beautiful, beautiful bandeau tiara from the Queen's collection.
There were no mixed feelings about her Stella McCartney party dress that she put on after the wedding. That was universally said to be a winner. And many people, including myself, actually preferred that dress. It was just a knockout. And there's some very famous video footage of Meghan and Harry exiting, and they look like they are literally in a James Bond movie. Harry looks so dapper. They are the most glamorous, gorgeous, sexy, beautiful couple in that moment.
Meanwhile, in the palace, there was a lack of trust towards Meghan, and there were fears that the couple's domination of the headlines would eclipse other senior members of the royal family.
It's my great pleasure and privilege to invite Her Royal Highness, the Duchess of Sussex, to speak.
We are proud to be able to join you tonight in celebrating the 125th anniversary of women's suffrage in your country. The achievements of the women of New Zealand who campaigned for their right to vote and were the first in the world to achieve it are universally admired. In looking forward to this very special occasion, I reflected on the importance of this achievement, but also the larger impact of what this symbolizes. Because yes, women's suffrage is about feminism, but feminism is about fairness. Suffrage is not simply about the right to vote, but also about what that represents. The basic and fundamental human right of being able to participate in the choices for your future and that of your community. The involvement and voice that allows you to be a part of the very world that you are a part of. And women's suffrage is not simply about the right to vote for women, but also about what that represents. The basic and fundamental human right of all people, including those members of society who have been marginalized, whether for reasons of race, gender, ethnicity, or orientation, to be able to participate in the choices for their future and their community.
Good to see you. Sorry, you want me over here? Sorry.
Yes, so X marks the spot.
X marks the spot.
Lovely horses in the background.
Nice.
It's all ready. Right. Prince Harry, have you got any news you want to share with us in the world?
Yes, I'm very excited to announce that Meghan and myself had a baby boy.
There was a lot written about the way that Meghan and Harry handled this birth. In some believe there has been a fundamental disconnect on the part of Meghan and Harry in the difference between being a celebrity and being a royal. As a celebrity, you're entitled to privacy when it comes to things like this. I mean, of course, you have Beyonce with reporters camped out at the hospital, but as a celebrity, you don't owe the public anything when it comes to pictures of your newborn. As a royal, the expectation is that you do. As a royal, the expectation is that this family, in a way, belongs to the public. They're public servants. And if the people want to see a picture of the baby, you give them a picture of the baby. If the people want to see the new mom just hours after she gives birth, trotted out in stockings and high heels, then you do it. That has been done up until now. Whether or not that's right, that is the precedent. So for Harry and Meghan to treat this the way a celebrity would really treat this, which is, we ask for privacy at this time, that's not what royals do. And the British press and some of the public have been upset because they want to feel like they're participants in this birth the way they have in other royal births. However, Meghan and Harry have drawn a clear line in the sand and said, no, we have boundaries and this is ours. And we're not letting you in to this special moment in the way that, say, William and Kate did. The initial hours after the baby's born belong to us, not to you. That is the difference in the way celebrities and royals view these kinds of things, and that has been a sticking point for some people in the British press.
all the work you do together is great, but working together as family, do you ever have disagreements about things?
Oh, yes. Yeah, healthy disagreement.
Okay, the last thing you disagreed on, how do you resolve it?
I can't remember. They come so thick and fast.
But is it resolved? We don't know.
Oh, we don't know. Well, you're putting on a great show if it's not.
By 2019, little progress had been made to reconcile the growing gap between the two brothers' families. At Westminster Abbey for Commonwealth Day service in March 2020, the two couples barely spoke. While a lot was written about a raging feud between Kate and Meghan, the reality was that the two barely knew each other.
I think the hopes were that Kate would help Meghan adjust, and the two women would become fierce and loyal friends and would be, you know, joined at the hip, and everything would go smoothly. Of course, we know that's not what happened. Meghan and Kate have really not forged the kind of friendship that I think royal insiders were hoping that they would. They're by all means cordial, but I don't believe they are close friends. I think Meghan and Kate probably don't have all that much in common, and they're both fully formed adult women. You know, they're not teenagers that you take on a trip together and hope they get along. These are two fully formed women with their own styles and opinions, and we know about Kate Middleton that she very much follows the royal protocol. She does not put a step wrong. Whereas Meghan, I think, is challenging royal norms. We know she is because she's already done things markedly differently than any other royal has done. So the women are different. Personally, I don't believe there's been a big rift between Meghan and Kate at all. I think it's more likely that it's Harry and William who have their own ideas about things, and the wives are kind of going along and supporting their husbands.
Meghan's comments in a recent ITV documentary also left many questions about how well the royal family tried to make Meghan feel welcome.
You add this on top of just trying to be a new mom or trying to be a newlywed. It's, yeah, well, I guess, and also thank you for asking, because not many people have asked if I'm okay, but it's a very real thing to be going through behind the scenes.
May I just say that while I'm here with my husband as a member of the royal family, I want you to know that for me, I am here with you as a mother, as a wife, as a woman of color, and as your sister. I am here with you, and I am here for you, and I thank you so much for showing my husband and I the spirit of Ubuntu. And I look forward to our time over the next few days together. Thank you so much for having us.
Harry and Meghan made the public announcement across their channels and social media. After many months of reflection and internal discussions, we have chosen to make a transition this year in starting to carve out a progressive new role within this institution. We intend to step back as senior members of the royal family and work to become financially independent while continuing to fully support Her Majesty the Queen. It is with your encouragement, particularly over the last few years, that we feel prepared to make this adjustment. We now plan to balance our time between the United Kingdom and North America, continuing to honor our duty to the Queen, the Commonwealth, and our patronages. This geographic balance will enable us to raise our son with an appreciation for the royal tradition into which he was born, while also providing our family with the space to focus on the next chapter, including the launch of our new charitable entity. We look forward to sharing the full details of this exciting next step in due course as we continue to collaborate with Her Majesty the Queen, the Prince of Wales, the Duke of Cambridge, and all relevant parties. Until then, please accept our deepest thanks for your continued support, the Duke and Duchess of Sussex.
This has opened up a Pandora's box. There are so many wider issues at stake. The future of the monarchy, this streamlined monarchy that you keep hearing people talking about. What does that actually look like if Meghan and Harry do step down?
Look, they're clearly very unhappy with the royal existence that they have at the moment and the way that their public life impinges on them. It's something they clearly want to change. Many people have sympathy with that. It's understandable. The crux of the matter is you can't be half royal. You can be part of the royal machine. You can accept the privileges that go with it, but also take the restrictions and all that. And you live in a sort of bubble, or you can stand back. I mean, the next generation of Dukes of Kent, Dukes of Gloucester, they're private citizens. No one would recognise them in the street. You can go down that route if you want. What you can't do is to be sort of transatlantic royals who drop in, do a bit of royal stuff, but then go off to do this sort of financial independent stuff in LA or Toronto, wherever it is.
They feel they've been hounded by the media, etc. But in reality, there's been nothing like that.
Come on, you would say that.
No, the royal rota system works, I think it's given them an awful lot of, it's been going since the 1950s. And one must remember that this is an unelected institution that relies upon media, publicity, the public support for its life's blood.
This new relationship they want is very much what, say, a celebrity like Beyonce has, whereby they are in control, they release the images, they choose who comes and talks to them. I mean, that's a relationship that works in Hollywood, that's a relationship that works with celebrities. It's a great open question whether it's a relationship that can work with a senior, active member of the British royal family.
Well, Harry and Meghan's decision to step down from their royal duties was a huge shock. It was also a shock to the Queen and Prince Philip. Although they knew about it beforehand, they had no idea that it was all going to happen so quickly. They thought this would pan out and be carefully organised. Instead, it was just a snap decision. And then Harry and Meghan put a sort of blueprint on their website. So the royal family were very shocked and actually very angry.
The couple decided that they wanted to leave royal life behind and make a break for freedom, but the palace were not receptive. Prince Harry and his wife Meghan considered the extreme measure of breaking royal protocol to contact the Queen as tensions grew in the royal family. Sources say Harry emailed his grandmother and father to say that he and Meghan had come to the decision to change the way they worked, to step back and spend more time abroad. With both family members informed, Charles's private office was requested to schedule a time for the two to meet the Queen, who was based at Sandringham for the holiday as soon as the Sussexes returned to the UK on January 6th. Their trip to London was going to be short, but Harry was keen to ensure that by the time they returned to Canada at the end of the week, their new chapter had been secured. However, Harry was told his grandmother was unavailable until the end of the month, and ordinarily that would be that. At this point, they felt like they had brought up the subject enough times with family members over the past year, and they were fed up with not being taken seriously, a source close to the couple said.
I think the whole plan that Harry and Meghan have is a really problematic one because they're talking about stepping back. Their critics would argue about having their cake and eat it. They're talking about one day representing the Queen on a foreign tour to another country, on another day, say in North America, earning serious money with some sort of endorsement of some sort of product. The risk is that those two things aren't compatible. The risk is that their pursuit of money will tarnish the Windsor brand and tarnish the House of Windsor.
It's extraordinary that Harry and Meghan took the step without consulting the Queen, or indeed without consulting Harry's father, the Prince of Wales, or his brother William. The facts of the matter are, however, that this is symptomatic clearly of the fact that they are unhappy with royal roles and feel deeply pressurized.
I mean, this is the real problem for the Queen and Prince Charles. They are dealing with this as a grandmother and as a father on the one hand, and they're also dealing with it as the protector of an ancient dynasty. And we have seen that how, as protectors of the ancient dynasty, when they need to, they act brutally, as they did with Prince Andrew when they removed him from public office.
The only president was Edward VIII, who abdicated in 1936 in order to marry Wallis Simpson. Harry, of course, is sixth in line to the throne, and this is not an exact parallel at all. But there is no doubt that this will have seismic effects.
There may be a point that at some stage that the Queen, Charles and William believe that what Meghan and Harry are proposing is a threat to the institution of the British monarchy, then they will act.
The only sensible way of proceeding was to have arranged this beforehand with other members of the royal family, with the royal household. They've chosen to do the opposite and go rogue. The result, therefore, could have very serious consequences. There is the security costs. There's where they are to live in North America. There's the British taxpayer paying $2.4 million already for their home in Frogmore, and there will be issues dealing with staff, issues also dealing with royal engagements. They say they want to keep their patronages, so it raises more questions than it answers. What it emphasizes is how unhappy and stressed they are.
They wanted to help. The Queen in particular wanted to help Harry and Meghan. She understood how difficult it was for outsiders to marry into the family, and she said, you know, I'm leaving the door open for you. You know, I'm absolutely determined that I want to leave the door open for you. Your cottage will remain there. Let's review the situation in a year.
The tipping point crisis meeting was arranged for January 13th. The crisis meeting was in reality just a private lunch with a lot on the table, so to speak. The biographical book Finding Freedom described the lunch eloquently. Sitting at the Queen's dining room in her Windsor Castle apartment, it was just like the old days. While he had lost respect for parts of the institution, and even certain family members at points, the Queen was still one of the most important women in his life. As they tucked into a roast lunch, the Queen made it clear to Harry that she would always support him in whatever he decided to do. Though a 12-month trial period had already been promised to Harry earlier in the year, their conversation was also a reminder that should he and Meghan ever want to return to their roles, they were always welcome. After days of silence from the palace and amidst the public mania at the announcement, Her Majesty the Queen released a statement to clarify the next steps for the couple. Following many months of conversations and more recent discussions, I am pleased that together we have found a constructive and supportive way forward for my grandson and his family. Harry, Meghan, and Archie will always be much-loved members of my family. I recognize the challenges they have experienced as a result of intense scrutiny over the last 2 years and support their wish for a more independent life. I want to thank them for all their dedicated work across this country, the Commonwealth, and beyond. And am particularly proud of how Meghan has so quickly become one of the family. It is my whole family's hope that today's agreement allows them to start building a happy and peaceful new life. Buckingham Palace also had the following to say. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex are grateful to Her Majesty and the royal family for their ongoing support as they embark on the next chapter of their lives. As agreed in this new arrangement, they understand that they are required to step back from royal duties, including official military appointments. They will no longer receive public funds for royal duties. With the Queen's blessing, the Sussexes will continue to maintain their private patronages and associations. While they can no longer formally represent the Queen, the Sussexes have made clear that everything they do will continue to uphold the values of Her Majesty. The Sussexes will not use their HRH titles as they are no longer working members of the royal family. The Duke and Duchess of Sussex have shared their wish to repay sovereign grant expenditure for the refurbishment of Frogmore Cottage, which will remain their UK family home. Buckingham Palace does not comment on the details of security arrangements. There are well-established independent processes to determine the need for publicly funded security. This new model will take effect in the spring of 2020.
And Harry and Meghan went off to live in Canada. And then later, when the pandemic was closing down the country, they moved to Los Angeles. And that is where their home is, and I think that's where they'll stay.
It's definitely sad for the team at Buckingham Palace. They have a superb team there who've been fiercely loyal to them. I think the assumption would have been that there would have been possibly a core number of staff who would have been retained to run some kind of operation here for them. They've decided against that. They're severing all ties. It's a really strong signal that they are off on their own now in America and Canada.
Now living in Los Angeles with their son Archie, Harry and Meghan are putting their business sense to good use as they prepare to launch a new brand and base for their future endeavors.
I think I can very safely say, as naive as it sounds now, having gone through this learning curve in the past year and a half, I did not have any understanding of just what it would be like. I don't think either of us did that. We both said that, even though we knew that it would be.
I tried to warn you as much as possible, but I think both of us were totally surprised by the reaction after the first 5-6 months of what we had to ourselves of what actually happened from then. So I think you can have as many conversations as you want and try and prepare as much as possible, but we were totally unprepared for what happened after that.
Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Such has been the case for the two brothers. It is known that Harry and William are rebuilding their bridges via intercontinental Zoom calls. Their bond has always been immeasurably strong, and now that pressures have subsided, it feels as though a new mutual understanding will carry them forward. Whether it was their plan from the start remains in doubt, but there was little doubt that this mold-breaking modern couple would outgrow the old-fashioned institutions of royalty. And now they finally have their freedom.